Welcome back to 5 Miles Easy with me, Rose Harvey.
And me, Steph McCall. She's an Olympian.
And she's an elite ultra runner, so you might think we have this running thing pretty figured out.
We absolutely don't, but we're on a mission to become better runners.
And we're bringing you along for the journey.
So let's lace up for 5 Miles Easy.
Steph, we are finally back in the studio after what has been absolutely forever. Oh my God, like what a busy month.
It's been so hectic month. I think it's been like 3 months since we've actually been on the sofa together, but that's gone so quickly in my head.
It has, and we have a lot to catch up on today, namely a very, very big run. You have done 100k.
Yeah, I have, which still sounds absolutely mad to me.
Yeah, can we just let that sink in? 100k.
It is really quite disgusting. Like,
yeah,
nothing. I think even doing it makes it probably feel worse as well. It's so long.
I really can't wait to hear all about this, because I was thinking after doing London, like finishing 42k, I just can't imagine being like, right, 60 to go.
I know, that was one of the first things you said after London. We were like celebrating Rose's huge achievement.
I was like, you've got to do this plus 60k.
And you were like, next week, I can't imagine if you just finished that and then running 60k. I will say, you wouldn't have gone at that pace if you then had to do another 60k.
Hopefully not. That would be a very, very painful 60k.
It is a whole different sport, I will say, to the marathon.
Yes, right. Where should we start? Shall we start at pre-race? Right, so 4 weeks before the 100k, you'd done two Oceans, which was 56k and a hell of a lot of climbing.
Yes.
So how did you get from that, which I can imagine your legs were not feeling too fresh afterwards, to being ready to run 100k?
Yeah, it was an interesting one, because I've never had that where there are two quite big races pretty much back to back, and it's definitely not the recommended thing. You know, you think of marathons where you do 2 a year, so 4 weeks apart, I was like, am I being really stupid here? I think one thing was, because 2 Oceans, I ended up not running the whole thing as hard as I wanted to. That actually helped. And obviously I didn't want to do that, but in hindsight, that probably helped my recovery from it, because actually a few days afterwards, I felt pretty good. And I was in South Africa for a couple of weeks after 2 Oceans, and I was just running with Joe like on the trails, and it was just slow. And I think that was quite good recovery, less impact, wasn't fixated on any pace, just running for enjoyment. And I actually think having a couple of weeks of that was really good. And then once I got home, it was like, okay, I'll just tick off like a couple sessions, but they don't need to be fast, just to get the legs ticking over. And then feeling fresh in the final week for the 100k. So
you kind of had like 1 week of proper training, and then the rest was like taper.
So. Yeah. It's funny thinking about it now that I've done the race, because I actually think I'd probably have a different mindset, but we can maybe talk about that later from my learnings, because obviously I had no idea what I was getting myself in for.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I just need to recover from one race, but I want to feel good for the next race.
Yes.
So I did what I thought was best for that, but I didn't really know what was best.
And how did your legs feel going into it? Like, did you actually feel fresh?
I actually felt fresh, and I had a proper taper week going into it. Again, the taper week, I was like, do I taper how I normally would, or do I just not have to do anything? Because I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one, because the pace for the 100k is not fast, so you almost don't need
What pace is it? Like, what pace did you end up running?
So, well, the pace I ended up running was not the pace that I like kind of went into it, but in my head I wanted a bit of a range of pace, like from 7:15 to 7:30 a mile, but then I would also assess the race, because obviously if I was doing that on my own and everyone was behind me, then I would probably want to sit back with a group. But I thought I'll have like a sort of broad range as a goal pace, so then I know roughly what to start at.
Yeah, so just for a bit of context, that's like your easy run pace,
right?
It
is, yeah, exactly.
So obviously it's a very, very long way, but
yeah,
it must have felt, when you started off, it must have just felt quite slow, like an easy run. I mean, probably even slower, because you're like in race conditions.
Yeah, even slower, because I actually, when I looked at my splits afterwards, my first 3 miles were like 7:08, 7:09, and I thought I was running like 8 minutes in my head, because I wasn't really looking at my watch then. I thought I was really jogging. It is weird, but I think in the final week, you kind of, for a faster race, you want that pop in your legs.
Yes.
Whereas it's like, how do you taper, because you don't really need that. It's like I can always run 7:15 even if I'm not feeling like chirpy.
That's so weird. I mean? Yeah, because you're right. Like for marathon, you're going off at quite a fast pace. So you need a bit of pop in your legs because it's not like you're jogging at the start. Yeah. I mean, obviously it feels relatively easy, but the pace is still threshold pace.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been so different.
Yeah.
How did you in those first miles like get into that race mode? Because I feel like part of getting into the mindset is having to run at a fast pace. So did you struggle to like get into the race mode?
I guess it was so different. It was actually hilarious. Like the start, everyone was taking like team pictures before, and then they were like, okay, 15 seconds. And then we kind of were just like, kind of rolled into this start. But like.
So you didn't warm up?
Oh, no.
Did you warm up?
My warm up was just drills. And I kind of did like one tiny jog, like probably 400 meters maximum. Because I was like, because again, the pace isn't fast.
Yeah, you don't really.
I'm not going to pull a muscle.
Like warm up is just race pace.
Yeah, I just want to feel a bit like, okay, I've got some bounce. But the start was so funny because obviously normally on a start line, I even find it funny watching the marathon because like even for you guys, everyone seems to be on the start line like sprint mode, and then it's like go, and then you're like
it's
running
like
way
an anticlimax.
Yeah.
I was talking about this on our last episode because it is exactly like that. Like and everyone has so much pent up energy, I think, and you feel like you have to like gun it off the start line, and then you're like. It feels like you're jogging at the start. Yeah. So it's such an anticlimax, and there's kind of that realization. It's like, oh shit, right now. 26 miles to go.
I know.
I mean, for you, it must be so
Well, that's
weird
the thing. That's why it was so funny. The start, like, no one really
See
lined
you in 8
up.
hours.
Yeah. No one lined up. They were honestly like, okay, 15 seconds. And everyone was kind of just like, oh, okay. And we kind of just sort of like rolled over the start line because it wasn't, you didn't have to be like, let's go. It was so funny. But yeah, I think that you didn't really feel like you felt like you were going out for a run.
Yeah.
And so immediately I just grouped with a couple of the other girls in the England team because it felt like that's the right pace. And we were just chatting.
Yeah. I feel like we're really brushing over the fact that this was for England. So let's just dive into that a little bit. How was the whole experience of the England vest, which I think your last England vest was what, when you were like
22.
Okay. So how was that coming full circle, having had an England vest at 22 for something very, very different in distance, and now putting on another England vest?
Yeah, it was really special. It's so funny when I think back to it because when I got that first England vest, I was like, oh my God, I've made it. And I think like, you must have thought that when you got the England vest for the half marathon, you're like,
oh my gosh, I thought that was the peak of my life.
I know. And then from there I was like, where do I go from here? I'm like this international athlete now. But then, as we've spoken about on many episodes, it then kind of just sort of plateaued a bit and nothing really, like I wasn't really sure where I was going in the sport until I've started doing the longer stuff. So it was really cool to just get the opportunity now that I've done a couple ultra marathons to like get another England vest, that they believed in me, that I could be part of this team. Especially like I really don't have any experience. As we know, I've done 2 Oceans twice. That's it.
So how did you qualify?
They did from that.
From 2 Oceans?
Yeah, they reached out to me saying like, we'd like to select you for the team because you've run a really good debut ultra last year and like you've got a good marathon background. And I think the point of England teams is it's a development team, right? Like they're trying to get people to have some international experience so then they can hopefully like push them up to like Europeans and world stage. And so I think for the 100K, what they were trying to do is get people that more have like a marathon background rather than just having those from the really long ultras, just to get more people through and like make, I guess, the depth of the sport a bit higher.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
That's
I was
so
just
cool.
so appreciative because I was like, I don't really belong here. Like I've no business doing this event, but I'm just going to do it for the experience and see like.
Well, you say that, but like you did amazingly well. So you obviously do belong there, and you've like got to do your first one at some point.
Well,
so
yeah. If you want to, but yeah. So no, it was really cool. And the team were so lovely. Like it was really great to meet people from very different backgrounds. Like the 24-hour backgrounds.
Yeah, so who else was on the team?
It was quite a mix. So the girl that ended up winning, she's a 24-hour runner. She'd just been selected for the GB team for the World 24-hour race this year.
That's the thing. It's like
I know, and I'm like, you would have to pay me to do
so
that.
niche.
24 hours around an athletics track.
So is that just specifically round a track? She only does it round a track.
That's what the event is. It's 24 hours round a 400 meter track.
God.
I don't think you'll ever catch me doing that.
You're really like limiting your competition there, aren't you? Because there can't be that many people who would be insane enough to do that. Not just once as a challenge. I can kind of see the appeal of that. Not that I'm ever going to do it, but you know, it's like a one-off thing. But to actually make it your sport,
yeah, it's insane. But what I've learned from this whole experience is actually having that background was very useful for the mindset for 100k.
Surely it's got to be easier than running, but also like just not having to go around the same thing every 400 meters. It must be. She must have been like, this is fabulously scenic.
No, she made me laugh so much. This is Kelsey Price, if she happens to listen. But she was like, what if I get lost? And we were running around a motor circuit.
Is this why she does? Is this why she does 24 hours around a track? She had like some hideous experience of getting lost and be like,
I know.
The only way I can run now is around a 400 meter track.
I was like, Kelsey, I promise you will not get lost. And there are going to be people in front of us. Like the men are racing with us as well. Like, don't worry.
Marshals.
Yes, you will be fine. But yeah, so it was a range on the team. There's quite a range from like marathon all the way up to, I guess, 24 and multi-day events as well.
Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah, I think it was on the women's team, it was everyone's first 100k road race.
Oh, nice.
People had done trail, but no one had done it on the road, I think. So that's quite interesting.
So how many people were in the team?
5 women, 5 men.
Wow. And then, because it looked like there were a lot more people racing than that.
Mm-hmm. So that was in the team, because then you've got Scotland, Ireland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
Right.
So that's the 100k, and then there was an open, so you could just enter you could have entered it if you were not on the team.
Oh.
Week after
Damn
London.
it, missed that one.
But like anyone could have actually entered it just as a race, and it's still the same race.
Yeah.
And then there was a 50k, and that was just an open race. Anyone entered the 50k. And then there were these relays, and I thought this is going to be chaos because it's one lap, the relay, and I thought they're going to be sprinting so fast. But yeah, so there were a lot of people, which was good.
Okay, that must have been really helpful from a mindset perspective, like having other people there.
100%. And the thing is I said it was on a motor circuit, but there were these weird like hairpin turns, so you never actually did a whole like loop round, if you know what I mean. You ended up kind of going back on yourself, so there were 2 lanes the whole way going opposite directions, which meant you go around a cone and then you see people who are behind you or whatever, or on different laps. And it was actually really nice because even with the men, you'd kind of smile or like give them encouragement, and you could kind of got to know people around the course, like over the course of 8 hours.
I love that. So okay, talk about a bit more about the course.
Okay.
It's laps, right? So
Yes.
how far is each lap?
So each lap was 3 miles.
Okay.
And
so
that's
what?
It was 20.7 laps. So the start line was just at a different place to the finish. So the first one was like 0.7 of a loop, and then you did 20 full laps basically. So we got to know that course very well. But it was like it was good. It was very exposed, and there was one bit where it goes like up a hill and then down the other side, and then you did like a U-turn and you go back up the hill you just came down. And
how big is the hill?
I think each one was like 20 something meters of elevation, so each lap you're doing like 45 meters, which adds up. It ends up being like a kilometer of elevation.
Yeah, I can imagine at the end that felt like Mount Everest.
Yeah, I think actually the downhills by the end, I was like, oh my God,
the quads.
Yeah, it was just like I could get up, because I think no matter what pace you're going, you can kind of get up a hill.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How were the legs throughout?
Okay, so this is what's really interesting to me that I would never have known because I've never done it before. First half, lovely, gorgeous, 50k, thought easy. Legs were fine, because obviously the pace, like it's chatty, but like I could talk for all of it. Obviously you're not like out of breath. And then it got to like, I think it was, I went through like, you go through the finish line every loop. So
That's
for that one,
horrific.
Yeah. So it was like 58k, I think was the end of one lap. And I had a marathon to go. And then I was like, something in my mind just sort of switched, and it wasn't like a normal race where you have, you know, you spoke lots in the last podcast about like the chimp, etc. And it wasn't like the chimp saying like negative thoughts like I've experienced in the past, and I can kind of know how to control that now. It was more like, okay, maybe just like ease off a bit because you've got a long way to go still, and then hopefully you can like finish strong. But when that was happening, it was almost like my body knew it had never been in this territory before, and it was suddenly like, as we know, like the chimp is trying to protect you, right? So it was like my body was protecting me from the unknown, and it just suddenly like everything got so painful. And it wasn't the pace, because it wasn't like I'd gone off too fast. It was just like time on feet and the unknown. Could I get through another marathon?
Yeah. What was it that was painful? Like, what was the worst bit?
My hip flexors. I don't
really.
Yeah, I've never had that before. That came as a shock.
What shoes did you wear?
My normal carbons.
So carbon shoes.
Yeah. And I think everyone was wearing. Yeah, there was a range. You know, like any sort of normal.
Again,
shoes.
quite a weird. Not a weird thing, but I wouldn't know what to do in that situation because you're like not running fast.
Yeah.
But then you still want to save your legs, right? Like I'd never do my easy run pace in carbon shoes.
No, but you want to feel like you've got a bit of like, oh, this is quite nice and bouncy. Yeah, it was interesting because when my legs started feeling really bad, I kind of thought I want really cushioned shoes because it felt quite sore. So I don't know, that's something if I was to do something like that again, I'd think about that. But yeah, hip flexors were so painful. And then, just the quads, like everything was just a bit like, this is so sore. So I tried to slow down. I kind of just kept getting slower for a while. I tried to do my two oceans tactic at one point of like walking for a bit and then jogging. And nope.
That made it worse.
Anytime I tried to run again, it hurt so much. So I was like, just don't walk, like just keep running like slowly. And then what I found so interesting, when I had 3 laps to go, I was like, oh, I can do it. And I started speeding up again. And like my last lap, the last 3 miles, was one of my fastest ones.
I saw that on the splits. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're back. Because I was watching and the splits dropped and I was like, oh God, that's going to be painful last thing again. And then you just bounced back.
Which made me realise like a lot of it was just like, I must have been unsure that I was like protecting myself in case like I wasn't going to be able to get to the finish or something. I don't know. It was really weird, but it's almost like now I know I can do it. I feel like if I was to do it again, it wouldn't have set in that badly. But it's interesting, as I said, because you can see so many other people on the course. Like the men's race, there was one of the guys was out so far in front for like most of the race, and then suddenly he was walking, and I was like loads of men were. So I was like, okay, this is okay. Normal. Like I was then going past some men even when I was going slow. I was like, okay, this is just part of the race. So yeah, like everyone seemed to slow down, but Kelsey, who I mentioned, phenomenal race, even splits the whole way. Like
wow,
yeah. And I remember her saying to me at one point, I think we were about 55k just before I did start slowing, and she was like, I said, I can tell we're over halfway now. And she was like, it's going to start feeling really hard, but I promise you it will feel better. And I was like, okay. But then it did. Like, she's right. So she knew from experience, like she's been through it.
And I suppose like in every race, we talk about, in the marathon, you go through a rough patch.
Yeah.
And Georgie and I were talking about this in the last episode of like, a lot of it is just recognizing it's just a rough patch, and there's always that the first thought is like it's going to feel this hard for the whole rest of the race.
Yeah,
and often it doesn't, and you kind of get out of it, and then you start feeling good again. I'm guessing in 100k, it's just a elongated rough patch.
Yeah, I had quite a lot of funny comments because on my Strava I did put like from 60 to 90k, like I found really hard, and everyone's like, oh, that classic 30k rough patch, but it's not but it's not a lie. Like that 30k was really hard, but I think exactly like you said, so Robbie Britton, who was our team manager, and he's hugely experienced in ultras, he gave such good advice before, and that really stuck in my head during it. And he was like, basically what you said is, no matter what pain you're going through, remember it won't last.
Yeah.
And I just thought about that. I was like, I'm fine to keep going because I know like I will get through this. And it was slightly annoying at some points in the race because I was like, I know I'm finishing this. Like there was no way I was not, like I was fine to finish it. It was just taking a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a whole different thing. Like I remember thinking I've got 20 miles to go, and I just thought this is going to take forever.
My gosh. But then you've also, it must have come into your head that you've like done 40 miles. So it's all relative. It's like, oh, well, I've done more than that. I've done twice that distance. I've only got a third left.
Well, yeah, 100%. That's why, like, when it was 3 laps to go and it was 9 miles, I was like, oh,
It's
nothing.
only you're in single digits.
Yeah, 9 miles, nothing. Yeah, it was funny, but it was good. Like, I had Joe and my parents were like kind of spread out around the course, so I'd use them as little like targets to get to, and because I could still talk, like,
Yeah.
I could kind of almost have a bit of a chat with them whilst I went past.
Nuts. Such a different race experience.
Wow, yeah, nothing I've ever experienced before.
How did it compare to Oceans 50Ks in terms of enjoyment? Like, what would you prefer to do?
2 Oceans for sure.
Yeah,
I think
shorter.
I think I definitely know I love the ultra stuff, but I think closer to the 50K mark is for me, just because I quite like going off a bit faster, because you feel like, okay, I need to train my speed for this, because you still need to hold a decent pace. And then I like the challenge of it still being a long way. So it's like finding that happy medium. I think I would definitely do 100K again, maybe on a more exciting course, but it makes me know I want to do Comrades, because that's like 90K. So it's like, but yeah, that's a whole different
So now
thing.
you know you can do Comrades, like, and having that 100K experience. And then Comrades is such a big race in South Africa, so I can imagine the support and the scenery would be way better.
Hugely different. Yeah, but
okay.
gosh.
Should we talk about fueling? Because I feel that must be a huge part of 100K. So you're running for what,
almost 8.5 hours. Yeah,
8.5 hours. How on earth do you fuel that?
you have to. Yeah. So what was really great, so the England team, they basically sent out these spreadsheets that we had to fill in, because we were basically assigned one person from the crew that would be handing us bottles, whatever we needed, which was great. And it was very Formula One pit stop style. So before like the finish line, you'd kind of have to like go into your little bit, grab your fuel and come out. So I had to sit down and basically do all the maths and plan out exactly what fuel, because then I had to hand it in and they were using that as the guide. So it's basically each lap, what would I want? And I had to work out like grams of carbs, milliliters of fluid, and then like how much sodium that would also be if I was taking on sodium.
Really scientific.
It was really scientific.
And this is all gels and drinks.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you could do like, I think there were some people that may have had some other bits, like I think some people had some solid food, but I think most people had gels and drinks.
Yeah, okay.
Which,
but did you? Oh my god!
I was worried because I remember you saying to me like, running over like a whole meal time, that I might get.
I think that would be my
hungry.
biggest struggle.
Yeah.
If I'm ever running over lunchtime, like, it's game over. Like, I can't have enough fuel. I just get so hungry.
I thought that.
Do you not get really hungry?
I didn't know.
I'd be like dying for a ham sandwich or something.
I was worried about that, but I promise you, it was the absolute opposite of that. Like, it was honestly like I managed to do really well with it, but yeah, it is quite disgusting. Like, the carb drink is so sweet, and it was quite hot, so like I was trying to make sure I got all the fluids down. So, but that carb drink, I just felt quite full by halfway. Like, it just a lot of liquid.
A lot of liquid.
The gels were a lot easier because I feel like, I don't know, they're just smaller and I could just force that down. But like to get all the liquid in, and actually when I was kind of struggling in the second half, I did say, which was great, because you could obviously, every time you got a drink, I could say what I wanted the next lap if anything was going to change from the plan. And they did say it's a long way. In 100K, the plan changes.
Yeah.
So in the second half, I said, can you change all of my carb drinks to water? Because I was like, I can't do it. I was like, I'll take the gels, but I can't have these drinks. And then, so they did that, like the next lap, like it was water. I was like, amazing. And then I think it was when it was 3 laps to go, my gel was not one of mine. And they'd done it on purpose. And it was like it was a caffeine cola gel or something. And I'd never had it before, but I was like, they're clearly giving this to me because they think I need it. And like, I took it and I was like, that's when I started feeling good again. So I was like, great.
Interesting. A little boost of caffeine.
Yeah. So it was amazing having like a team there that like knew what they were doing and were kind of assessing like, okay, maybe she's not looking so great. Like, we'll do this.
It's not so, I just can't believe you didn't get hungry.
Oh my gosh. I remember at the finish, like.
Were you really hungry at the finish?
No. Everyone's like, oh, do you want this? Do you want that? No, like, I don't want anything. And then after maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, I wanted a bag of crisps. And I'm not a crisps girl, but no sugar, crisps,
salt.
And then later I had a burger and chips.
Nice. And then were you just like what was your appetite like the next day? Because after London, I was starving for 2 days straight.
Yeah, I was, but I thought maybe I would be more. I don't know.
Really?
Like, I woke up next morning, like, I think I messaged you. I was going to the car to get a granola bar because breakfast wasn't being served till 8 a.m. And it was like I was laying in bed at like I woke up at 5:30. As it got to like 7, I was like, right, I need to get snacks from the car because I can't make it to breakfast.
So hungry, yeah. Oh my god.
And then I had
imagine.
yeah, like I had a very salty breakfast. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt a bit sick the next day. From all of that.
It's a lot of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how were the legs the next day? Like, did you wake up and what was it like?
I groaned. So the night before, I actually took an ibuprofen because I was laying in bed, like on my back. I couldn't like turn over. And it felt, you know, when you just feel like a dull ache and like, I don't know, it was just without moving, it was pain. So I took an ibuprofen. I woke up the next day and I was like, okay, I feel better than the night before, but like my hip flexors that were hurting in the race were bad. So it meant when I was going upstairs, I couldn't lift my legs.
Oh,
because you need
God.
like obviously your hip flexors to lift your legs. Then so that was Sunday, and then Monday my hip flexors were actually fine. It was just sort of my quads.
That's
so
nuts.
It is amazing.
Have you run since?
I did a 1 mile test just to assess the body yesterday, and I thought, no, I'm not ready.
So when do you think you'll restart running?
I'm just
give it a few days.
Yeah, I'm just like, there's absolutely no rush. It's more, I don't know if you've found this since your race. After your big race done, I think after 2 Oceans it was good because I knew I had this one, so it was a distraction. But you're like a bit lost. That you've been building up to something, and now I keep waking up like, oh, like what am I doing? And especially when you can't run yet, it's like all my normality is gone.
Yeah, the routine is gone. I totally get that. Like, I'm not sure where to start my day.
Yeah.
And I've actually, since the marathon, I've been incredibly busy. But it's like as soon as I get up, I'm like, oh, my routine's all out of whack.
Yeah, that's what feels weird to me. So it's like, I only want to start running so I get some of that back. But at the same time, I'm like, no, there's no rush.
Take a good rest.
Take a good rest and like maybe do a bit of cross training or something once I feel like I want to do something.
Because you've also had like the 2 Oceans build up and then this. Even if your legs are okay, surely like your endocrine system is
100%. Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah, no, I'm so aware of it. And like I spoke to Aidan earlier and he was like, yeah, exactly. And also the amount of force you put through your bones, like you don't even think like your muscles are sore, but you actually don't think about like your bones have actually been, I say broken down, but like not breaking them, but like as in they are going to be a bit weaker for a bit.
Yeah.
So
they've had so much taken out of them.
Yeah.
Everyone says like if you scan elite marathon runners after a marathon, you'll probably have like grade 1 stress reactions.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Your whole leg. So imagine after 100k.
Yeah.
Don't get a scan.
No, I won't get a scan. But yeah, just being sensible. And actually, like, I put something on my story yesterday because both my Garmin and my Oura Ring are like, you are so recovered. Like, everything's looking amazing. So you could easily look at... Yeah, like, my readiness on my Garmin was like 93 this morning. And
but in your Oura Ring as well.
Yeah, both of them.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's so weird because I had the opposite. Like my legs actually felt fine after London. Like I think on the Monday, if I hadn't have had my Whoop, I would have been a little bit tempted to run because I felt okay. Although I was very strict on like I am having 7 days off.
Yeah.
But it was my Whoop that was like, no, you're not. Good.
Yeah.
I had high resting heart rate, high HRV. So it was obviously like my body was still catching up even though my muscles felt all right.
I wonder if some of it is also like, because obviously you were pushing yourself like pace wise as well, like really getting the most out of your body, where it almost has a different effect to what I was doing, where I was almost like the effort level wasn't high, as in obviously I was trying,
it's
like
a lot
that's
more
not
muscular fatigue.
Yeah, exactly that. Like as in it's like I could easily look around, waved, chat the whole time.
Yeah,
but it is just like physically. Yeah, so my resting heart rate's back to normal and like HRV is normal.
That's great.
Well, yeah, it is great, but at the same time, it's like don't rely then on that because you
still need all your muscles to recover.
Yeah, that's telling me, oh, go out and have a huge training day, but obviously I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I guess as well, like in training, I will run the distance. So, and obviously I don't do a marathon pace in training, but
Yeah.
I do long, hard sessions, which aren't like too far off.
Yeah.
So it's probably not for my muscles too big a jump, but for you don't do anywhere near a 100k run in training, so it must be so different for your muscles.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting. So yes, we'll
Relax.
Relax.
Yes.
There's no rush for now.
So how did you celebrate?
I cannot
Went to
say
bed.
honestly, like I haven't had a drink since the race, nothing. Honestly, I've been hugely boring. Yeah, Joe and my parents, we went for dinner that night. I had a burger and chips, as I said, then went to bed.
Love it.
All I wanted was that and a Diet Coke. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, alcohol, absolutely not.
Oh my God, no.
I've not even fancied anything since. I've been hugely boring. I've just basically
relaxing.
been like working, sitting, walking, eating since.
Okay, so now it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. Reflections on the race. What were your biggest takeaways?
One of my biggest takeaways was the game changer of an ice bandana.
Okay.
We did not mention this. So it was quite warm, and also after 2 Oceans I was a bit worried because obviously I struggled in the heat there, although that was humidity rather than more dry heat. But I was like, okay, I cannot overheat. And so Robbie had organised getting ice bandanas for the team, which are like, they have a zip in them. So you tie them around like the front, like a bandana, so it sits on your back, but you fill it with crushed ice in the zip. Absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. I bought one for myself. It's so nice. And it kind of makes a noise, but it was like a nice white noise, like distraction while you're running, because it's like kind of like bounces a little bit on your back, like but it was so good, and I had no problems in the heat at all. So the combination of that and just pouring water on me was perfect.
So it sits on your neck?
Yeah, so it just like, if you think about a bandana being like a big triangle, it's like just sits on the back of your neck there.
Oh no,
It's so
great.
It's so good. You wouldn't want to do it in like a fast race because like it would be a bit of a,
That'd be
but
annoying,
at that pace, like it was just like, well, what's an extra little thing hanging off me? Like it was so good. So that was a big takeaway that I might have to use that in the future at certain races. The other one was like actually just learning a lot about yourself, because having a 30k bit where you're struggling but knowing you're going to do it, like I was like, there was not one part of me like was like, yeah, I'm going to get through this. Like I didn't ever doubt that. So I think actually getting to the end of that and being like, I don't know, it was just a nice feeling to know that you're strong enough to complete that.
Yeah.
Even without having the experience of it.
Did the England vest add to that? Be like, okay, well, I'm here for England, like I'm going to finish it.
I think so. Yeah, 100%. I think, you feel proud of that. But I also think if I wasn't, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It's hard to tell because I was wearing it, but I'd like to think I would have still done it without it. But yeah, I think getting to the end, and it's the classic thing where during it you're thinking, God, I'm never doing this again. And then like a few minutes later, maybe I would.
So funny what you promise yourself in the race. At some point in the race, it always gets in my head, I'm like, I never have to run again. If I just get to the finish line, like I never have to run again.
Yeah.
And then I have one day off, I'm like, I love running so much, I can't wait to get back to it.
Exactly. I'm like, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a big takeaway. But the biggest one was for the ultra stuff, I think just respecting it so much. And that's not to say I didn't, but I'm still quite naive to it, like it's unknown. And actually, it is such a different sport. And it's so much about experience that it makes me just want to do more of it to get better at it, because you can't just go into it expecting to be like the best at that distance when you've never even got close to it before.
Is that hard though? Because surely you can't do that many a year.
Yeah, I think.
How many do people do?
I think it is interesting. I'm not really sure, but I guess it would be just similar to marathon. You can't unless you were doing one like really slowly for fun. But I think, and that's probably the same as marathon. Like if you, like you say, you cover the distance in training, so actually you do maybe a few marathons a year, just not racing them.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. So yeah, if you're going to put everything into it, I'd say probably no more than 2.
So what's next?
This is the big
plan?
question. I want to do another ultra this year. I think maybe October, November time, but I don't know which one yet. And I think also one thing I want to do is with the marathon, I'm not ready to race it again for myself, but I still want to be part of that. And London absolutely highlighted that for me because it was just so fun. And I was like, oh, I want to do London. But it's actually going in it to pace other people, to say like sub 3. So it's still like a good run out for me and a really good training run, but it's not like putting pressure on myself to get the time that I really want. So I'm hopefully going to pace Hannah at Berlin.
Cool.
Which would be great.
That'd be really fun.
And then if Aidan does Valencia, pace him to sub 3 in December.
Amazing.
So those are like a couple things that actually really excite me, and I'm like, that's really fun. But then for me, I would like to target another ultra, but I just don't know which one it is yet.
Will it be on the road or trail, do you think?
Road.
Would you ever do trail?
I would absolutely do trail, but I think it can wait. I think it takes so long to get good at something, and it's so easy to get excited and be like, I want to do this, 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 and this. But actually, like, I need to focus on one thing, and actually, if I want to get better at it, I need to keep doing that rather than just going off, and which you can absolutely do, but like I don't want to just do loads of things for fun. I just want to
focus on one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, so exciting, and I'm just absolutely in awe. I have no idea how you did it, but so cool. So a huge well done, and enjoy the rest of your rest week as well, because
thank you.
You've earned it. Now we've got our big debriefs ×2 done. We'll be back with some very exciting guest episodes. We have some amazing guests coming on. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Now we're both back in the studio. I feel like we're going to get a lot of exciting episodes done together.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks for joining us. 5 Miles Easy.
See you next time.